Welcome back to Board Game Bites. These are 5 mini board game reviews. Alright everyone, welcome back to After Evenfall. My name is Bailey and thanks for joining me back here for another segment of Board Game Bites. Now, I know I missed the video on Monday. It's because, I don't know if you can tell, I'm super congested. We've been really sick all weekend and I am still not feeling 100%, so you're going to have to bear with me if there's a little bit of sniffing in and stuff. Also, I got a new chair, which I'm super excited about because my old white chair that I was sitting on was like a crappy $5 IKEA chair, and I probably have like 5 or 6 different videos where I accidentally shifted wrong to pick up a board game, and I totally like fell on my butt. And I thought about like adding that to the end of a video sometime, but it was very unbalanced chair. Super excited to get a new one. Anyway, I know that's kind of a silly thing to get excited about, but I am. So today we're going to go through 5 more board games. I'm going to give you my opinions, what I think of them, and kind of a brief rundown on each game, and let's get into it. So my first board game is one that I got for Christmas from my mother-in-law, shout out to her, and it is a very cute puzzly game, and that is Castles by the Sea. Designed by John Benjamin and Michael Zwereb, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but it's produced by Brotherwise Games. So like I said before, this is a puzzly little game where you are these little people called shorelings, and you're building up your... Oh, shoot. My dad's calling. I'll be right back. If you want to bring mango salsa... Love you, Dad. Goodbye. So Castles by the Sea is a puzzly game where you are playing as little shorelings. You're building up your little sandcastle kingdom. So each turn you're going to get the ability to place out like a certain amount of sand blocks onto the board, and then based off of what shapes the sand blocks are made into, you can place little figurines, little meeples onto the board as well. There are also hazards involved that when triggered inflict destruction on your sandcastles, and which is kind of annoying, I'm not gonna lie. It's never fun to like build up your sandcastle and then have half of it wiped out. So some hazards will wipe out the top block of sand, maybe in a line, or other ones will knock all the meeples off in a whole stretch of the board. And you will score points every round dependent upon how many figures you have out, where you have them out, and those points are written down on the cards in front of you. Now the theme of this game reminds me so much, I don't know how many of you are familiar, but there was a book series when I was little called The Littles, and it was about this little family that lived in the walls of a home, and they're itty bitty, and they have tails and stuff, and I don't know why, well I do know why, it's because this is like Little People Sand World theme, but I just love the theme of it. I think it's so cute. The meeples are really adorable, and if you can get, I went out of my way to upgrade to the screen printed meeples, and I love that like each color that is attributed to each of the players on the screen printed meeples has a little bit of variation to it. So like some of them will have different skin tones or different colors that they're wearing, things like that. And they're super cute. I love that variation. I love that they went out of their way to do that. The game itself is super fun, and it is a little painful, like I said. Like when you're building up your castles and you've spent all this time building them, and one hazard comes through and knocks them all out, and all of a sudden the player to the side of you is raking in all the points and it's not you anymore. That's always kind of a bummer, but it's also really fun. It kind of gives the game a high stakes feel. There is also an option for solo play, and that is what I've played the most for it. I will say it's definitely more fun when you can be competitive on the board with other people and not when it's just you alone. It is still a fun solo play game, don't get me wrong, but my preference is to have it not at the solo count just because there is a little bit of like, if someone places their parts out on a certain section of the board, that might hinder your ability to build around that area, and so that gives it kind of another feel to it, whereas in the solo version of the game, there's not really that going on. You're just kind of building out your own section. It almost feels a little bit easy, because I've found that a lot of the time when I've got my section built out, the hazards will just go right to the other side, and I don't have to worry as much. My other critique of the game, and this one is a little bit of a nitpick for me. It's kind of my bugaboo. The storage in the box is not my favorite. I did end up 3D printing separate storage just because I hate baggies. I hate them. There's not a single person on this planet that wants to pour out all of your components and then separate them all out at the end of the game back into their sorted piles and pour them all back into baggies and then have them fall on the floor or get all over the table. Like, I don't like doing it. I like inserts that have spaces for every single thing. This one doesn't so much, but the 3D printed stuff, if you get files off of Thingiverse and if you happen to have a 3D printer at your house, those are really nice. That's pretty much the sole reason I use my 3D printer is for printing inserts. But again, I did really enjoy the game. So I gave this game 3.5 stars because it is on the side of the spectrum where I do enjoy the game a lot. I have other games that I prefer more, which makes it so this one doesn't come out to the table very often. I'm not quite as excited to play it as I am a few other games, but it's still, I don't want to make it out to be like it's a bad game. Because I do enjoy it. I like it a lot, and I think it's a very fun game to play. It's very nice for people who are entry level because it's not overly complicated, but it still gives you the satisfaction of playing a game where there are a lot of options available. But that is Castles by the Sea. Okay, so the next game is one that I've talked about on my channel before. It was on my shelf of shame. We have played it, finally. I did get it to the table, and now it's time for my opinions on it. And that game is... This is a twisty chair. Endless Winter Paleo Americans. You guys are going to see me like twisting back and forth this whole time. My other chair is very stationary. This one is spinning. Anyway, designed by Stan Kordovsky and produced by Fantasia Games. So the best way to describe Endless Winter, now that I've played it, is a hodgepodge game. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It has a little bit of almost everything you can imagine. So they have area control a little bit on one section. There's deck building. There is worker placement. There is set collection and a little bit of resource management, just to name some of them. I'm sure there are more than that. That's just what I can think of. And I will say, boy, is it confusing to learn. But the gameplay for it is so rewarding. It is such a fun game. There are so many options available at any given point in time, and it's one of those games that I enjoy a lot. So initially in the first round, you'll have cards in your hand, and you can place some of them down to allow you to take certain actions. They're culture cards typically. Sometimes they can be tribe cards. And then after those cards have been played, you'll take a worker and you'll put it over on one of the 4 worker placement tracks. Now on the worker placement tracks, there are 2 of them that allow you to get more cards. One of them is for the tribe or the clan cards. One of them is for the culture cards. And then there's a 3rd track that allows you to put teepees out on the hexagon spaces over on the other side of the board. And then there is also a track that allows you to go hunting, which gives you that set collection where you can try to collect a certain amount of animals in order to gain points at the end of the game. Or you can kill off those animals and hunt them and use their meat to give you more of that resource so that you can maybe do other actions in the game. The area control section, you can get points from having control over certain hexagons. And then if you have like 3 in certain areas, you can put a bigger plastic, almost like a Hogan piece on there. Overall, what I'm really trying to say is there is just a lot packed into this box, which it's a bigger box. I kind of expected that. There's also like an eclipse phase. I guess I forgot to mention that. There's an eclipse phase where you bluff cards that allow you to be higher on the turn-taking track, which gives you maybe better options. Or there's also over to the side, I know it's so much stuff. Over to the side, there is this idle track that rewards you for the certain amount of cards as generations pass away, or some other stuff. Anyway, I won't get into all of it. This is not an explanation on how to play the game, but it is just a really brief run through so you kind of can be a little more prepped going into it. It is, like I said, a lot to learn. And setup, the very first game you play, when you haven't played the game yet, setup takes a really long time to go through the whole book and try to understand where everything goes. However, after you've played it once, like in almost all big board games, after you've played it once and you're familiar where the flow of the game is, and you're familiar with the flow of the game, setup becomes a lot faster. You can probably half that time. The insert for this game makes setup a lot easier. I love this insert. Okay, I didn't get the Kickstarter insert. I just picked this up at my board gaming store a few hours away, and the insert in this one has spaces for all of the individual players to put their pieces, and then there's lids on everything. So everything stays inside the lids. I love it. It makes my day, and it makes it so much easier to set this game up and put it away. And again, I will say it, there are so many actions and abilities in this game that there are a plethora of tracks to victory. And that helps so much with people who are different minded. I know that I play games a totally different way than my husband does. And it's nice because it gives us both options to victory that might be completely different from one another. And I love that about it. However, it is more complicated to learn the very first time. So I know I personally would have a hard time wanting to bring it out with people that were maybe new to our house. Like, it's definitely not a first time board gaming game. So I gave this game 4 stars, and I really like it a lot. I don't want the fact that I subtracted 1 star to take away from the fact that it's a really good game. The reason I took 1 star away was because I do feel like in this game you are spread so thin that it almost feels like you're just barely getting into every element. Like, the entire game that we played over the course of the rounds, I really feel like we maybe only pulled each maximum of 5 cards for the deck building section of the game. And I personally didn't really have any reason to ever discard any of my cards into the burial grounds because I needed them all to buy other stuff. And then the area control, I love that element because I think that's kind of fun to mess around over there. And my husband always beats me at area control. Bugs me half to death. But I do feel like the area control could be a little more aggressive. That being said, it's still really enjoyable. I love the worker placement allowing you to do other things on the board. I love that it's not just like, place your worker here, get this many resources. There's a whole list of things that get to happen if you place your worker there. It's hard for me to feel fully satisfied in everything when I am being spread so thin. Like, I feel like because I was focusing so hard on area control, I didn't really get to do the set collection, which, by the way, is how my husband creamed me. He got, like, all the set collection, but he also somehow managed to split his attention a lot better than I did, and he got a lot more points than I did. But that all aside, it is a fantastic game, one that I would like to bring to the table over and over and over again. I am totally willing to play it more than once, which is always a good thing for me because I have so many games that turn out to be one and dones. And I would highly recommend this to anyone who's getting more interested in heavier weight games. It's not a heavyweight game, it's heavier medium, but it's still a really good game when you're transitioning to maybe some of those heavier games. And that is Endless Winter. So my next game is one that I am pretty sure that everyone on the planet who is interested in board games, even just a little bit, has already heard of. But I just wanted to give it a review and give you kind of my opinion on it. And that is Everdell, designed by James A. Wilson and produced by Starling Games. So Everdell is like the epitome of a worker placement tableau building game. In Everdell, you are placing your workers out across this beautiful forest board, gathering resources and purchasing cards as you grow your woodland kingdom. As the seasons pass, you'll gain more workers, which will give you more actions per turn, and you'll be able to buy more cards. The turns start out really, really short and slowly get really, really long. And that's something that I, before Everdell, had never seen. Now, since Everdell, I've seen it in a few games, but that's only because Everdell is an older game for me now, which is kind of weird to say. So you can join in festivals, you can like put your workers on places that maybe other people want if you really want to kind of hate draft. And you can match these cute woodland creatures to their occupations and gain more resources that way as well. I may be a little bit biased toward this game because it was probably the game that pushed me into board gaming. I had played other games growing up, but Everdell was the one that really got me interested in like watching YouTube videos on board games and going to my first board game store. And I just love this game. I know that it's one that everyone has heard about a million times. I know I'm kind of beating a dead horse, but it never ceases to bring me joy to see everything laid out on the table. Andrew Bosley, I've said it before, I love his art. He does such a good job of making you feel like you're really diving into this fairy tale woodland world. It's magical, it's ethereal, and it is just stunning. And the gameplay is just as good to match. I love this game. It reminds me of a children's book, and I just, like, if I could find a portal to this world, I would do it every time. I just want to go, I want to live there, I want to see all the cute little things. I'm sorry guys, I have a really bad sore throat. My throat's like really dry, so if I'm like making a ton of cuts in the video, it's because I'm coughing. But there are also a ton of expansions to this game. I have all of them, I think. I never know because I feel like they come out with them so often. But there is Mistwood, which this time I got to double check that the box is up because I always mess that up. There's Belfair. There's Pearlbrook, which is my personal favorite. Upright, yeah. Then there's also New Leaf and Spirecrest. And these are not in chronological order from publishing. This is just what I have. I bought all of these back when they first came on sale, so I do not have the big box. However, I know that with Everdell there is a big box, and you can get all the expansions in with it. There is also a new, I believe it's a standalone game. It's called Everdell Farshore, and that is kind of like an expansion. I mean, it's a standalone, so it's a standalone game, but it's also an expansion. And I do not own that one. However, it is on my list of games that I want to get pretty soon because if it's Andrew Bosley, I'm going to be buying it. It's just a fact of life at this point. I am like an expansion addict. If I will not play them all the time, but I have to like complete sets and I have to get all of my expansions. It drives me nuts not to have all of them. Like I have Dinosaur World. I've never even played Dinosaur World, but I need all of the expansions to Dinosaur World. I don't know. It's weird. I know. It's dumb, but it's an obsession of mine. So I have the collector's edition I purchased back like many years ago, and it comes with like the metal tokens and stuff. You can also go online and you can purchase the upgrades off of their website, and Etsy also has a plethora of upgrades that people are selling. I know that you can get stickers to put on your meeples through Etsy, or I've seen these really beautiful playmats and I want them so badly because they are so pretty. But I have to finish all the sets, and there's one that comes with like a set of 6, and I want all 6 mats, but I don't want to pay for all 6 mats. It's killing me. I can't bring myself to just pick 4 of them when there are 6 beautiful options available. But there's also like you can get an upgraded wooden tree. I don't have that. I actually messed up my tree the very first time that I put it together because I couldn't figure it out at the time. And I really should buy the tree, but I haven't. And then there's like card sleeves, which I just ordered. Yes, I just ordered them, so hopefully those will come soon. I'll blatantly admit that I am biased. I gave this game 5 stars. That is because I will never not be excited when someone suggests to bring Everdell to the table. We may not play it a ton, but it is one that I always love to hear people get excited about. It's one that I always am willing to back if there are maybe some more expansions coming out. I will never, ever tire of this series of games. I love that it offers depth and complexity without being overwhelming, and it's somewhere in the middle where it's maybe not heavy enough that you want to bring it out with people that are new, but people who have played board games a few times, this would be a fun one to bring out. It's not overly complex in any way, and it's a game, again, I know I've said it a million times, I love it. It's just my childhood wrapped up in a box. When I was growing up, I was all about like the fairies and all of the whimsical world, and I loved to pretend that everywhere I went, there were little animals and people running around having cities in the woods and stuff. Anyway, this totally fits that vibe, and I love it, and that is Everdell. So this next game, in comparison to the other games that I've reviewed today, is definitely on the lighter side, and this game is Explorers by Phil Walker Harding and produced by Ravensburger. So Explorers is a draft and write where you have boards placed out in front of you and you put these tiles into your board to give you a map. And there are tiles in the center of the board. One person will flip over that tile and there will be 2 terrains depicted on the tile. Whatever is facing them is the action they get to take. Whatever is facing everyone else is the action that you get to take, unless you want to pay more to take that action in front of them. And then whatever is displayed, you will go down to your map and you will check off boxes relative to those spaces that are depicted on the tile. And these spaces symbolize areas that you've explored. From discovering keys to unlocking temples to gathering gems or things like that, this game is very versatile. It is fairly easy to learn. It gives extremely similar vibes to Guild of Merchant Explorers, if any of you have ever played that, how you have your cubes that you're going out and discovering the board with. Instead of cubes, you're discovering with those tiles that are flipped and you're Xing off things with a marker. Every time we've gotten this game out, it's been a really big hit. We brought it out at Christmas time for the first time, and I played it with my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law, who are on the lighter end of gaming, and they both really, really enjoyed it. We played multiple games of it. This is one that almost everyone at the end of the game wanted to play it again because they felt like they were so close to getting what they wanted out of it. I love how easy the setup and cleanup is. It's really just a few little dry erase pieces that are out. It's nothing overly complicated. There aren't a ton of components, and I love the sturdiness of the tiles because I've had some roll and writes or some write and draws things, or not write and draws, some like flip and write stuff where the board maybe is a lower quality and so it's kind of wobbly. It's just like laminated almost. This one is actual big pieces, and I really like that about it. Overall, I gave this game a 3. Again, similar to Castles by the Sea, where I did enjoy the gameplay. I just probably wouldn't, my preference would be to play maybe another game instead most of the time. So at our house, we don't actually have a set group of people who like to play board games. I don't have hardly anyone outside of maybe my mom, my husband, and my sister, and sometimes my brother, that are interested in playing anything that's heavy. And so we definitely don't have like a solid gaming group. And that being said, when we do have people over to play games, it's really nice to be able to have these lighter ones on hand because so many people get intimidated by the heavier games. And even though you know that they could probably grasp them, it's just a little scary for them. This is one of those games that's really nice for nights like that. It's not quite, well, I would probably classify it as a lullaby game because it's very easy to play. But that is Explorers. So for my last game, I'm pulling from this side this time, and this one is one that we have played, oh man, like where to even start with this game. We have played this game so many times. This is probably like our #1 most played game. It's not even because we love it a ton, it's just because it's so easy to teach people, and that is Century Golem Edition, a game by Emerson Matsuki and produced by Plan B Games. And I have all the expansions in this box, however, we have only played the Century Golem Edition. We haven't played the rest of them quite yet. But, so I'm just going to be reviewing just Century Golem Edition, the plain one. I will not be reviewing Endless World or Eastern Mountains at this time. So this is a deck building card game where you are purchasing cards that are laid out in front of you with gems that you receive by playing other cards. You will, similar to Canvas, you will walk those gems up until the card that you want, and then you will draft that card off of the board. Now, these cards will offer you kind of various things. They typically fall into one of 3 categories. You either can play a card to upgrade gems, which the gems go from yellow to green, green to blue, blue to pink, pink being the hardest to get, yellow being the easiest to get. And you can play a card that will allow you to maybe upgrade a green to a yellow or upgrade a green twice to a pink. There are also cards that if you have certain gems already in your stash, you can maybe take 4 yellows and turn that into a blue and a pink. They're kind of like trade-in cards. And then the third version of card is one that just allows you to straight up take a gem from the stash and add it to your board. Now with these gems, you're trying to upgrade them so that you can purchase golem cards that are laid out on top of the board. These golem cards will have various requirements of gems that they need on them, and they will also have various amounts of points that they will give you for achieving them. Sometimes there are these little metal coins that you can put above 2 of them that will give you bonus if you take the cards that are below those metal coins. And that's kind of the gist of the game. It's fairly easy to teach, fairly easy to learn, and that's why we've really enjoyed it in our house. We have played it so much. I know I just said it. So much. So I got this for Christmas, not this last year, but the year before. We were at my in-laws' house at the time, so we were with my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, and then 2 of my sister-in-laws and 1 of my brother-in-laws were all there. And we decided to play this game, and we played it over and over and over again. I didn't think they were going to be super into it, but they ended up loving it so much that when we all left and went home, they all ended up going and purchasing or gifting each other their own personal copies of the game. So if you go to Plan B Games website, you can get a mat for the whole game, and I love neoprene mats. I'm always an advocate for going and getting them, unless they are double-sided neoprene. I cannot stand when it's double-sided neoprene. They have to be neoprene on top and then like a rubber material on the bottom. Otherwise, they're too light and they curl at the edges and they don't roll out all the way. It's annoying, especially if they have like the point trackers around the board. I know that's all like a side tangent. Castles of Burgundy's board, oh my heavens. If I roll that out, I will not be able to place any of my characters around the edges when I'm point scoring because they stay so rolled out. If anyone knows a solution to that, let me know. That all aside. So that whole Christmas, we probably ended up playing 30 games of this within a we probably were only there for like 4 or 5 days after Christmas itself. And we played 30 games of this game. I mean, it was a lot. And like I said, we all enjoyed it a ton. It's so simple and so fun to play, and it's really engaging for almost everyone. And there's a lot of room for like direct, not combat between players, but direct confrontation where someone will probably take your card at some point. If it doesn't happen every turn, it's going to happen at some point. And that's always kind of fun to see the tension of like, oh, you took my card. I've been saving up for that. I've been trying so hard. I've been waiting for it to slide down and you just took it. It's a great banter game. I have a few of them that I really enjoy banter-wise. This is one that's always fun. So I gave this game a 3.5, and that is only because we have played it so much that I'm getting a little bit tired of it, because we tend to bring it out whenever there's new people around, because it is kind of on the more medium side of that lighter version of that lighter gaming, so that we're not bored, but maybe they're not overwhelmed either. I just played it a lot, but it's, again, super fun game. The complexity isn't too difficult for anyone, and if you can get an insert that, let me tell you, Thingiverse, again, if you can fit all 3 games into one box, that is like chef's kiss. That is my favorite thing ever, when I can fit all the expansions into one box. But that is Century Golem Edition by Plan B Games. Sorry, y'all. I am like so sick. It's not even funny. I know I look, I tried really hard to look a little bit better, but I am definitely not feeling good. All right, everyone. So that has been Board Game Bites, and those are 5 more games that I have played more recently that we've enjoyed. Thank you so much for joining me again here today. I really appreciate all of you. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you liked what you saw. And don't forget to hit that bell to get any notifications when we post new videos. I try to post every Wednesday, Friday, and occasionally Mondays. So if you'd like to see more content, please don't forget to follow our page. And I really hope to see you again soon. Thanks for joining us here today in the After Evenfall community.